Hello everyone. Welcome to Tuesday Night Live with independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator Teresa Harper. I am located in Oregon in the USA. So glad to have you here. So we will wait just a few minutes to get started here and see who jumps on. And then we'll go ahead and get going. As you can see, we'll be using the Happier Than Happy bundle, which is the stamp set, and the Happy Forest dies. This is part of the Happy Forest Friends suite of products, and this is located on page 46 and 47 of the 2022-2023 Stampin' Up! Annual Catalog. You can see that they have some super cute samples in the catalog. Hello, Cynthia. So glad you could join us. Thanks for coming. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and set that aside. Again, that's pages 46 and 47 of the annual catalog. Hello, Tracy. And we are going to be doing two cards tonight. One of them is pretty simple, and the other is a fun fold. So I hope you enjoy what I've put together for you. I'm going to wait just about another 30 seconds or so and see if anybody else jumps on before we get started. I didn't do some of the die cutting ahead of time so that you could see exactly what I'm doing. Hello, Jennifer. Welcome. So the basis of our first simple card really is we are going to use a standard 8.5 by 5.5 sheet of old olive cardstock, and I have already embossed this with the Bark 3D embossing folder. Now this is a retired product, but we do have the Timber embossing folder in the current 2022-23 annual catalog if you don't already have a wood-grained embossing folder in your craft stash. I'm going to go ahead and fold this in half, and I'm going to give that a burnish. And then that will be ready for our card in just a moment. Okay, so let's go ahead and get our die cutting done. I've got a piece here of the Happy Forest Friends DSP. And these are the patterns that you get in this pack of paper. And so we're going to be using the one that comes with this right here. So I've cut a piece that is 4 by 12, and we're going to take the deckled rectangle dies, and we're going to take the largest one. Now, these are new to the annual catalog, and you'll want to look in the die section in the back. They're a standalone die set, and they're pretty good. They're pretty nice. I love them. So we're going to have to use the Big Boss for this. So I'll bring that up. And the way I did this to save paper was I'm just going to stick this deckled rectangle I'm looking to see what it is that I want in my card base. So I'm going to put this as far over to the left side here as I can, and as close to the bottom as I can so I won't come off. Whoops. The paper. Okay. Now slide my base on top of that. Set that down and roll it on through. Now, had I put that paper at an angle, you wouldn't have heard that pop. But I forgot to do that. It's best when you put these on your plate if you set them at an angle, and then your rollers won't hit the top all at the same time and it doesn't make that pop. So now with this, I'll just take and throw this into my trimmer and trim that off right at an even edge. And now I've got this nice piece of paper that's left that I can use for another project. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and keep this out because we're going to use the deckled rectangles one more time, but I need to put some things together before I do that. For the inside of our card, we're going to take a piece that's 3 5/8 by 4 7/8. I've got a piece of the Designer Series paper in a different pattern that is 1/2 inch by 4 7/8. And for the moment, I'm just going to lay that right here. And I'm going to grab my inside sentiment, which I'm taking from In the Moment. And it says sometimes the most productive thing you can do is relax. Okay. And I'm going to stamp that in some Mossy Meadow cardstock. Ink. Okay. So we're going to stamp that in some Mossy Meadow ink. And I put that on with my thing on here so that I can center my sentiment between the edge and the piece of Designer Series paper. Okay. I'm just going to give that a quick stamp down. All right. That looks very good. Okay, so we'll set that aside. Now we're going to take and adhere this 1/2 inch strip to the inside of our cardstock. Okay, I'm going to bring in my silicone mat here, just to make sure that I don't get any excess glue on the side. And I'm going to put this down even with the edges and just give that a good press. Okay. And then we're going to take the die cut machine again. Well, let's do one more thing so that we can do the die cutting these pieces at the same time. We're going to take a piece of basic white cardstock, and this is the regular weight. And we're going to grab the bear from our set. And my soft suede is pretty inky. So I'm just going to take a spoon and I'm going to press this down. This is a distinctive stamp set, and if you have too much ink, then you don't get good definition on your stamps. So this is the way to fix that. If there's too much ink in your ink pad, just give it a good little press with that spoon. And then when you put this down, you'll get a perfect image every time. So we're just going to set that down, let the ink soak into the paper. I'm not pressing too hard. And then I have a beautiful image. Okay? So Now we can take this and we can die cut it. Let me clean off my spoon real quick. I forgot to get my chamois very wet, so it's not real wet, but it'll work. All right, so we've got that. We're going to take our inside piece here, and we're going to take the second largest deckled rectangle, and this time I am going to remember to put this at an angle, and I'm also going to put my bear on here. And I'm going to grab my bear die, and we'll run this through. And I would use my magnetic cutting plate, but unfortunately and very sadly, it isn't up to Stampin' Up standards, so it's been recalled. I'm very sad. Okay, so we've got that. I'm going to go ahead and grab another piece of Post-it tape here just to make sure that this doesn't move as well. I'm going to throw those on my plates. Whoop! Got to be a little more careful when I do that. Okay. Get that machine up here. Pop that open. And we'll give that a run through. And that is all of our die cutting on this card. Oh, my computer wanted to restart. Oh my goodness, that would have been bad. Okay, so here we go. We've got our little bear for our card. And we've got our inside piece, which now looks a lot like our outside piece. Let's get those out of the way and we can start assembly. Like I said, this card is pretty easy. So we're going to take this piece. We're going to take a little wink of Stella. And we're going to put some wink of Stella on the mushrooms, just to give them a little pop in on these little calypso coral berry type things. Just a pop of glitter, not too much. And then we can take and add this to the card base. Okay, with a little bit of Stampin' Seal. Now you could use liquid glue because you're putting it on a 3D embossing folder, but I'm just going to add a little extra Stampin' Seal and call it good. Okay. While we're at it, let's go ahead and add our inside piece to our card. Okay, we are almost finished. So we are going to pop up our bear. Use some Stampin' Dimensionals for that. And just put a few of those around. I'm almost at the end of this sheet. And then I'm going to take one little mini stick up here on his hand. Grab my Take Your Pick tool. See if I can get those to pop off a little easier. Okay, there we go. We'll add this. There we go. Thank you for sharing, Jennifer. I'm going to add this down here in the right corner, like so. We're going to stamp our sentiment on a piece of basic white. And again, I'm going to do that in the Mossy Meadow. And our sentiment is actually from Sending Smiles. I took the Love and Big Hugs, and then I matched up that inside font so that it looked like they went together. This sending was way too big for my area. So we're going to take this Love and Big Hugs. And I don't think my piece is long enough here. Hang on. I think I'm going to have a problem. Okay, so we'll just stamp this down here like so. And then I'm actually going to trim this because I needed a thinner piece. Otherwise, I'm going to waste a bunch of paper. We're going to use the double oval punch, and we're going to punch this out. Just going to put that in there, give it a press, and because I did that, I didn't waste a bunch of paper. Okay. And then we need a piece of Mossy Meadow. And we're going to punch the larger oval. Put these two pieces together with some Stampin' Seal. And finally, we're going to take a piece of the Old Olive and Sahara Sand combo pack that comes in this suite. We're going to use the Old Olive. And we're just going to take a small piece of this. And we're going to make a little ribbon loop. That looks about good. And I'm going to cut that off. And then I'm going to take a glue dot. I'm going to take your pick tool. I'm going to put a glue dot right in there. Make sure that my loop is how I want it. Like so. And then I'm going to put some Stampin' Seal in the center of the back here. Going to press it right down on my ribbon loop here like so. And then I'm going to grab some Stampin' Dimensionals. And I'm going to add those to my sentiment strip. Peel off the backing. And I'll add this to my card just like so. Trim that loop up, or that tail up. And there is the first card. I hope you like that. Move some of my mess out of the way here. And we'll get started with card number 2. Okay, so it's a simple card. Doesn't take that long to put together, but it does have a nice impact. And it shows that this stamp set is not just for little kids. You could send this to anyone. Okay. All right, so the envelope that I did to go with that, I just stamped the bear again in the soft suede. And now we have a matching set. Okay, I'll clean up these stamps that I used, and we'll get started on the fun fold. The fun fold might look a little difficult, but it really isn't. So let's set this aside, and we'll grab that fun fold. Oh, that bear is adorable. Thanks, you guys. I'm glad you like that card. Okay, so we're going to start this fun fold with a piece of soft suede, and this is cut at 5.5 by 11, so you can only get one card out of a sheet of cardstock. Let's see. Let's go ahead and get this scored and trimmed, and then we'll go forth. Okay, so I'm going to bring in my Simply Scored tool, and with the 11-inch side at the top, I'm going to put this down here for you. I'll have to move it in a minute. Let's see if you can see that. Here are your directions. Oh, and my screen looks like it froze. Hopefully that's not for you, it's just my computer. Okay. All right, so this is what we have. Oh, sorry. I wiggled that camera. Okay. So we're going to score this at 1 3/4, 3.5, 5 1/4, and at 7. Okay. Now you could do this on your trimmer, and then you wouldn't have to pull out two devices or two tools. Now we're going to grab our trimmer, and with all of the scores at the top, we've got a bigger open section here at the bottom, so you can see where that last score is. Okay, I'm going to put my paper in the trimmer at 1 1/4 inches, and I'm looking right over here on this side. Okay, so I've got the 1 inch mark. Oh, you can't see. Let me move that down. I've got the 1 inch mark here, and then 1 1/4 is this line right here. So I'm going to slide my paper into the 1 1/4 inch. I'm going to get my cutting blade, and at 1 3/4, and you can see that it's marked over here, 1 3/4, I'm going to line my blade up on that score line at the 1 3/4 inches. Okay, and you can see because there's a little groove that's cut where the cutting blade will start cutting. So I'm going to press that down, and I'm going to go all the way down to the 5 1/4 inch score mark, and I'm going to stop, and then I'm going to lift that up, and you can see that I've cut from one score mark to the other. Now I'm going to flip this completely over to the back side, And again, I'm going to put it in my trimmer at 1 1/4. At the 1 3/4 inch mark. And I'm going to cut down to the 5 1/4 inch mark. That other score line. Okay. So now I've got 2 cuts. And we can put our trimmer away. Okay. So this is what we have. So now we're going to take this fold. We're going to fold this down at the 7-inch score. Okay. Just like we were folding the card, but we've got a bigger section here. So we've scored it down. Then we're going to take this second piece and we're going to score this back. Okay. And so that's, you've gone one direction and then you've folded back, so front and back. Then we're going to take this section, and you'll see when we take these pieces here and we put our fingers in these folds, this piece that we've cut will now start to pop out, and that's what we want. So we're going to go ahead and we'll fold those down and we'll get them even. And we're going to let those pieces fold down just like they're wanting to do. And then we'll burnish those really nicely. Okay, and we're going to burnish the back side as well. I'm going to burnish all of these score marks. Okay. Now notice I did not fold on this line or this line in the middle. The scores are there, but I did not fold on them. I just folded on those smaller pieces at the top and the bottom. Okay, and with those all burnished now, this will be our fun fold. This is how it's going to open. Okay, now we can start decorating. I've got some pieces here. Get those out. Uh-oh. Okay. So we've got our inside piece here. We've got a piece of Mossy Meadow, and this piece is cut at, the Mossy Meadow piece is 3 3/4 inches wide by 5 1/4 inches tall. Okay, the inside piece that we're going to use in basic white is 3 1/2 inches by 5 inches. We have a 1/2 inch piece of the Designer Series paper, and this is a 1/2 inch by 5 inches, and we're just going to stick this on the edge of our paper here. So let's go, oh, but before we do that, we're going to stamp our sentiment, because there are 2 sides to a piece of paper, and if we mess up that sentiment, we want to be able to flip that over. So let's find our sentiment, which is the happy birthday sentiment. And this comes from Celebrating You. Now there are some nice sentiments in the Happier Than Happy, but I wanted this to be a birthday card, and the sentiments that come in this bundle are Happier Than Happy for You, Hello Baby, Welcome, and Thanks. That just didn't fit the use that I wanted to use this card for. So I went to Celebrating You, and I've taken the happy birthday, and we're going to stamp this in soft suede ink. But again, I want this 1/2 inch piece of paper here. And the other thing that I want to do is I want to set this inside my card. Like so. And I recommend that you put this in the card how you want to put it in. And you want to be sure not to stamp above this piece right here. So you don't want your sentiment to go above that. So I recommend that you set that in there and then just put a real light pencil mark in there so you know that you need to stamp below that, okay? Now I don't know if you can see that pencil mark I put in there, but I want to make sure that I stamp below that. And I want to make sure that I stamp halfway between, or in the middle of this section and the edge. Okay, so I'm going to ink up my happy birthday. And I'm going to make sure that I go below that pencil mark, but not too far. And I'm going to stamp my happy birthday. And then I'm going to erase that tiny little mark. Put my strip along the side. And then I can go ahead and adhere that to my inside piece. And I'm just going to line that up even with the bottom, top and bottom, and the right edge. And now the inside sentiment portion is ready to be added to the piece of Mossy Meadow cardstock. And we'll just center this up. Okay. And then we can add this to the inside of our card. Okay. So we're put this in here. And that is ready to go. Next, we've got 2 pieces of that same piece of DSP. And this again comes from the Happy Forest Friends. So I've got 2 pieces that are 1.5 inches by 5 1/4. And I'm going to put these, I'm just going to set these down for a minute because I'm rather picky on my DSPs. And then I've got 4 pieces of the Designer Series paper that are cut at 1 by 1.5. So that's 1 inches by 1.5. Okay, and these 2, let's see. Trying to line these up how I think they're going to look best. I thought that I had actually cut these apart from each other, but they're not lining up perfectly like I think they should. Okay, this one does. So these 2 definitely go here. Now, do I have these 2? Well, we're just going to go with this. It will be okay. All right, so that's how we're going to lay them out. And I'm just going to use some liquid glue so that I can move these around as needed to wiggle them into place. Okay. Set that down. I'm going to do my other long piece. Put that down and wiggle it into place. Okay. And we've got this piece. And these I'm just going to center top to bottom, right to left between the cuts and the top of the card. give those a good press so that the glue squeeges everywhere. Not out, but I want it to get right up to those edges. And then I'm going to place this in here. Match this up. All right. So there's the decoration on that so far. Okay. Now we need a piece of, oh, did I not cut the basic white? Doesn't look like I did. Oh, maybe here it is. No, I didn't cut this one. Huh, interesting. Okay. For some reason I don't have this piece cut, so we're going to cut it here real quick. I've got the other two pieces. Maybe I've just misplaced this one. Yeah, because this was the stamping piece. Okay. So this piece of basic white needs to be 1.5 by 2 3/4, and that's 1.5 by 2 3/4. So let's see where we're at here. This is a little bit too wide. So I'm going to cut this 1.5 by 2 3/4. All right. And now we're going to do our stamping. Okay, so we're going to start with this piece. We need a piece of scrap paper. Okay. We're going to take the leafy green piece from the stamp set, and we're going to use Mossy Meadow. And I'm going to stamp one here, one here, and then I'm going to stamp one coming from this direction. I'm going to take the Sentiment Grateful to Celebrate You Every Day, and this is also from that Celebrating You stamp set. I'm going to line this up on my grid paper so I can try and get this straight. And I'm going to put this down. Now this won't give you a ton of room to write. Well, you have some in there that you can use. So this will just give you a little sentiment for the outside, and we're going to add that piece here. Here. So let's go ahead and do that. Just going to put that in here. Now you could not stamp here, and you could just put in a piece of the Designer Series paper that matches, and just make it 1.5 by 2 3/4, and not do this part at all. Okay, so now we're going to stamp our main focal images, and we're going to start with piece of basic white, and this basic white is 2 1/4 by 2 1/2, and you want the 2 1/4 inch side at the top and the 2 1/2 inch side at the bottom. You want this in portrait mode. Okay, we're going to take from the same stamp set, we're going to use the ground stamp set, the grassy stamp out of this set, and I'm going to start by putting this about right there, and then I'm going to stamp off, And I'm going to stamp on again, and then I'll go off again. And let's go down here. I want to put some there, and I want to stamp off over here a little bit. I'm just trying to put a little bit of ground in there. And then we're going to go up just a little bit because we're going to put some trees in here. So we want to make sure that our trees have a little bit of ground. Okay. Then I'm going to take my green blending brush. I'm going to see how much green I have left on there. And if I don't have, yep, I have enough left in there. So I'm not even going to add. I'm just going to fill that in with what's already on the brush, just to give that a good solid green without the white between. All right. Then we can take our old olive and put it away. Or mossy, yeah, I did just use, didn't I? Oh, I don't know what I used. Confused now. All right. So we're going to take the mossy meadow and we're going to stamp some trees. And I'm going to put a tree here. And I'm going to put one up here. And another one over here. So now I've created a scene, a background scene. But I don't like that white sky. So again, I'm going to take my blue blending brush and what I have left on there, I'm just going to put on. Okay. I'm guessing that that's probably Night of Navy left in there, but it looks really nice for the night sky. So it took the white out and we've got a nice background. All right, so let's finish up our stamping with a scrap piece of paper. And we're going to stamp our owl in Sahara sand. So we're just going to stamp him. Remember, if you're stamping with these distinctive stamps and your ink pads are too inky, you'll need to press them down. Okay, then take that soft suede again. And I'm going to see if this is too inky again, because I should have probably stamped this while I had it. And we'll see how that turns out. It's not too bad. I've got good definition in there, so I'm just going to leave that. That'll be fine. And then we need Calypso Coral. And we're going to take our little mushroom. And we're going to stamp 2 of those. And then we need that green leaf that we put next door here. And the mossy meadow again. And we're going to stamp this leaf. Okay. Now, there are dies for all of these, but there are not dies for those 2 tiny little mushrooms. There is a mushroom that's this size, and you could use this one, but I didn't like how big it was for my scene. So I'm going to go ahead and fussy cut out these little mushrooms. And remember, when you're fussy cutting, start with the end in mind so that you'll have plenty of paper to grab onto as you're finishing up. So see how I started over here? I didn't want to start down here because then I would be finishing up with that tiny little stem to hold on to. Okay, so we're just gonna fussy cut around that. Not too hard. I'm gonna do the second one. Goes pretty quickly. We'll get those done. All right, so we've got our two little mushrooms. And then we'll grab our little mini machine. And we will put our pieces on our plate. I'm going to flip my plate over to keep it nice and flat. And grab my little dies. So I've got my owl, my tree trunk, my tree stump, and I've got the little leaf. And with the owl, you want to line him up, and then you want to make sure that through those two little holes in the bottom you can see his feet. So get the feet all lined up and then put the body into place. And then we'll line up our tree trunk. Get another small piece of tape here, Post-it tape. And again, there's a little hole right here in the bottom of this leaf. I want to make sure I see color through that. Then I'm going to hold on to it and move the rest of it right into place. Okay. And then I know I'll have it all lined up. Okay, so now I can put my sandwich together here. Open up my machine. And because I used that Post-it tape, I know that my pieces are not going to move. Okay. So here we are. Carefully remove my Post-it tape. My pieces will all pop out right here. Okay. And now we have everything we need to finish up our card here. So we're going to take this and we're going to put, I used a lot of glue dots on this because I didn't want it to be too thick. But the glue dots will give me some depth without adding too much. So I'm actually going to double up glue dots on my tree stump. So I'm going to double stack those, one on top of the other. And for my third one, that's different. Roll down on there, that's great. I'm going to leave a little bit of room at the top so that I can tuck things behind it if I wish to. Okay. So I'm going to put my tree trunk down here, set it here in the middle. I'm going to take one of my, well, let's put my owl on first. And I am actually going to use some mini glue dots on him. So I'm going to put one on his head. And then I'll just put one here and here. Pull those off. And we'll stick him right up here in the middle of our tree trunk. I'm going to take this piece and I'm going to tuck this in here behind that tree trunk. Oh, look at that. That's weird. Do you see how that just sucked itself right in there? Oh, interesting. Okay, and I'm just going to glue this down flat. A little bit of liquid glue. I'm going to tuck that in there so it looks like a branch sticking out behind the tree trunk. And then I'm going to take these little shrooms, and before I do anything with those, I'm going to grab the Wink of Stella, and I'm going to put some Wink on the caps. And then I'm going to put just a little bit of glue on one of these, a little bit of wet glue. And I'm going to tuck this in behind this stump, kind of like that. And then I'm going to pop this one up in front of that, and I'm going to do that with a glue dot. It's to give it a little bit of dimension and make sure that it looks like it is actually in front of the other shroom. Okay, so we're just going to pop that up here like this. Kind of like that. Okay, and there is our little scene for the front of our cards. Now we're going to add this to a piece of Mossy Meadow, and this piece of Mossy Meadow is 2 1/4 by 2 3/4, so they should fit really nicely. Take some Stampin' Seal, and I'm going to center that on here. And we're going to bring back in our card base. And we're going to place this centered top to bottom and on the right, but it's going to overlap the DSP on the left. Okay, so again, we're centering top to bottom on the right with an equal border on the 3 sides here and overlapping that DSP. Okay, and these bottom top and bottom edges should line up with your basic white piece. Okay, so there is our finished card. And then it will sit for the recipient on their mantle or wherever they wish to put it. And to finish that off with a matching envelope, I've again, stamp some ground in the old olive, soft suede for the tree trunk, and Sahara sand for the owl, so that I have a matching envelope. Okay. All right. So those are our projects for tonight. I hope that you all have enjoyed those. Thanks. I'm glad you liked the fun fold. It looks a little bit harder than it really is, but it really comes together pretty easily and quickly, actually. So once you figure out exactly how you have to fold it, the key is to remember to fold forward, then backward, but only on these little pieces. Okay, and then forward and then backward. All right, so there we are. Hope you enjoyed that tonight. Just to let you know, I will not be live next Tuesday night. It is ballet dress rehearsal night. I will be gone taking the girls for dress rehearsal, so I will be unavailable for the Facebook Live next week. So I will see you again in 2 weeks. Oh, thank you guys for the hearts. That's so sweet. So glad you enjoyed that. So let's bring back in the first card that we made. So you can see, I really loved this. This suite was one of my favorites right from the start. I'm so glad I got it. It makes such cute, adorable cards. And I hope that you like it too. All right, so see you in 2 weeks. Hope everybody has a good time. Take care. Be happy, stay healthy, and happy stamping. Good night.